Welcome back to the program. To discuss that further, joining me now is Dr. Mustafa Caner from Sakarya University. Dr. Mustafa, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Mustafa Caner, yesterday Iran and the United States agreed on guiding principles during their talks in Geneva. Of course, we've heard the statement from the Iranian foreign minister. He said that this does not mean that a final deal is in place. And those talks were mediated by Oman. What are the key takeaways, Dr. Mustafa, when we look at the issues between Iran and the United States?
I still see no major breakthrough, actually, because sides are speaking in vague terms like understanding or like framework. As you know, the first round of talks were in Oman, and those talks were also indirect talks, and we have understood that the first talks actually were about establishing a framework, a ground that both sides could, work on, negotiate on. And after the first rounds, Iranian Foreign Minister Arakchi said that they established a framework, but we still didn't, know the exact content of their discussion. So that was, like talks about talks. And from yesterday's meeting, we have understood that they passed that talks about talks phase and they reached an understanding, but we still don't know the content of their talk or negotiation, and that was also indirect through Omani intermediaries. So I think the major point of contention still is about which topics should be included and which topics should be excluded from the talks. Iranian side insists that they don't want to talk about non-nuclear issues like ballistic missiles or human rights records or their relations with the regional allies, quote unquote, or some says proxies. They refuse to talk about these issues. They only want that talks to be limited with nuclear file. So for now, the United States seems to accept that, and they, Donald Trump's remarks actually signal that they are also willing to only talk about nuclear file, but I haven't heard any concession from Iranian side. And as you follow, all remarks are coming from Iranian side, actually. The US side, doesn't talk anything. We don't hear anything from Kushner. We don't hear anything from Steve Witkoff. Only Donald Trump talks. And Donald Trump's speeches have always, have the same content and the same resonation, like he threatens Iran with war, with this major military buildup in the Gulf. He says that we want a deal, and if there is no deal, there will be bad things happening on Iran. So basically, the all speech of Trump's is like that. And from the Iranian side, we always hear vague terminology like understanding, framework, but what is Iran willing to deliver? We know that the United States wants zero enrichment from Iranian side, and as we have heard from Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei yesterday, his speech was broadcasted on Iranian state TV, and he was saying that Iran is never giving up on its nuclear capabilities, including enrichment capacity. And Iran is also not going to, leave its ballistic missile technology. Iran has a bomb which has a nature it's not an atomic bomb, but it has a nature to deter the United States militarily. And Khamenei said that if Iran gets attacked by the United States, Iran will retaliate in such a way that Trump would be humiliated. So this is, Khamenei's speech. Iran, by looking at the speech, we understand that Iran is not going to concede on its nuclear capabilities. Only, offer that I get from Iranian side was diluting their highly enriched uranium stockpile. Um, and as you know, Iran has above 60% highly enriched uranium, around 400 kilograms, and no one knows the fate of this, 400 kilograms. Where are those enriched uranium stockpiles? No one knows. And we also know that Trump wants that enriched uranium stockpile to be transferred outside of Iran, and Iran also Iran refuses that also. So I don't see any, offer for concession from Iranian side, and it shows that there is still a huge gap between the United States and Iran's demands. Iran wants its frozen assets abroad to be, unfrozen, and also Iran wants all the sanctions to be lifted. But what Iran is willing to deliver in exchange for all these concessions is still unclear to me. So I see no major breakthrough from yesterday's meeting, and also given the fact that there is still a major military buildup in the Gulf. As you know, Trump has sent the second aircraft carrier, USS Gerald Ford, and it is approaching the Gulf very near. And also yesterday, Iran conducted several military drills in the Gulf, and it partially closed Strait of Hormuz. This is another point of military escalation, actually. So it seems that, in a way, that parties are, buying some time and preparing for a military, confrontation. To me.
Dr. Musa, one final question before I let you go. Now, we've discussed the talks in Geneva. I want to ask you, let's say, and the entire world is debating about it, let's say that these talks fail, as we've seen previously. Do you think that there are real chances that the United States will attack Iran? Because the Iranian government and Supreme Leader Khamenei has said that we will defend Iran and we can attack American aircraft carriers. Do you think there is a possibility that the U.S. attacks Iran?
I think it's a huge possibility, unfortunately, because when we consider the scope of that military deployment in the Gulf, it's a huge possibility that the U.S. Could attack Iran directly or indirectly, like using Israel, like in the first round last year in June. So it's a huge possibility, and that's why the regional actors, starting from Turkey, they are trying to prevent that from happening, because if it happens, it will affect the region, the whole region, in a way that everybody will get really damaged from that military confrontation, because after almost 14 15 years starting from the Arab Spring, there have been civil wars, there have been unrests, there has been genocide in Gaza, as you know. So the region needs stability right now. That's why regional actors pressing for stability. That's why they are trying to influence Donald Trump's, decision and the whole decision-making mechanism in the United States. Because this war, if it happens, it will, inflict such a damage to the region that any party, any country, can't bear. So this is a nightmare scenario, actually, and I hope that it doesn't happen because, everything is at stake. Because we know that Iran will retaliate in such a scenario, and Iran actually has several options to retaliate. I'm not only talking about how Iran could affect financial markets, energy markets by closing the Strait of Hormuz. This would be the lightest effect of Iran, because Iran could, target U.S. bases around the region. There are many U.S. bases and U.S. military assets around the region, and all the actors, regional players, in a way, would be involved in such a conflict. It would be like a world war. So and it's a huge possibility, because if Donald Trump backtracks that after piling that amount of military presence in the Gulf, it will be a really failure for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump needs a televised victory, because as the midterm elections loom, Donald Trump needs that kind of victory narrative to sell to American public. So that's why he's pressing to close a deal with Iran. That's why he accepts to narrow the scope, the talks, only limit them with Iran's nuclear file. I think Donald Trump desperately wants and needs a deal with Iran, because otherwise it will be such a messy, such an unpredictable scenario for the whole region.
Dr. Mustafa Caner, Assistant Professor at Sakarya University, thank you so much for that expert analysis. Always a pleasure to have you on Turkey's Diplomacy.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.